Panic is setting in, especially for me and most Yankees fans right now in the Bronx and the New York area. They lose game 2, 13-7 to the Toronto Blue Jays in ALDS game 2. They're now down 2-0 in the series and on the brink of elimination. They go home to game 3 on Tuesday in the Bronx, trying to starve off elimination. Now have to win 3 in a row to advance to the ALCS. I'm Ryan Sampson. This is the Pinstripe post-game show, and that's Dan Martin from the New York Post, our baseball columnist and writer. Dan, woof is all I really can say. What are your takeaways here from this ugly loss?
I know you just said it's time to panic, and yesterday you were a little panicky, and today I get it. This was almost a worst-case scenario. Yankee fans could have felt confident handing the ball to Max Fried against a rookie making his 4th major league start. But man, that was all wrong. Max Fried is the guy who looked like he didn't know what was going on out there. He got hit as hard as he has, basically as a Yankee. It was his shortest outing as a Yankee, other than the game that he had to leave because of his blister. And then Trey Savage, no one knew who he was really going into today, unless you're a pretty crazy Blue Jay fan. But he must have looked at Cam Schlittler last week and said, you know what, I can do that. And he sure looked basically just like it, if not a little bit better in terms of dominance. He didn't last as long, but 11 strikeouts, 12 strikeouts, no hits, just complete dominance. The Yankees had no chance against his splitter. It was really stunning to see how bad their offense looked, and then to see what they could do against everyone else. Obviously, much too little, much too late. But you can just see how little chance they had against Savage, but that one pitch, because they were on everyone else, but they just had no chance against that splitter time and time again. So that's a real concern for the Yankees going forward. I mean, they've got 1,000 concerns now. Forget just him. They'll probably never see him again until next year, maybe game 5, but who knows how they get there. But yeah, every question that we had about the Blue Jays has come up their way, and the Yankees are just lost. And they come home now. They've got Carlos Rodon going against Shane Bieber on Tuesday. They'll take their chances with that, but just to be down 2-0, to give up as many runs as they have in these first 2 games. It was one thing to see Luis Gil get knocked around because they didn't have a lot of faith in him in the first place. But Max Fried, they expected a lot more from him. They should have expected a lot more from him, and he came up. It was just a disastrous performance. And then look, Will Warren, they didn't start him yesterday because they didn't like the matchup against the Blue Jays. They preferred Luis Gil, and then you could see why. He stuck around there and saved the bullpen a little bit. But, given what the Yankees did against Toronto's bullpen, maybe if Will Warren comes in there and does a better job, they do make a game of it. But
just maybe, right, Dan?
What's that?
Just maybe, yeah.
Maybe. I mean, who knows? That's you can play the what if game all day. But certainly with the way the Yankees hit the Blue Jays bullpen, obviously John Schneider uses the bullpen differently if it's 7-0 as opposed to 12-0. But it makes you think, and that doesn't really matter. What matters is they've got to come back to New York now. They've got to regroup. They've got to work out at the stadium tomorrow, and they just need Carlos Rodon to pitch more than 3 innings and give them a shot here, because the first 2 games have been just not competitive.
No, they have not. And to put more onto this incredible way the Yankees have started this series, this is the first time in franchise history the Yankees have allowed 10 or more runs in back-to-back postseason games. And the other franchise record they've done here, this is also the first time the Yankees have struck out 10-plus times in the first 4 innings of a postseason game. So it's incredible how both sides of the ball that you highlighted there have completely fallen off a cliff right now. I know what you say, the damage they did against the bullpen, but right now, Dan, it's just not good all around. And it looks like the Yankees, I don't know if you want to call it a hangover or what, but the way they've started this series, you could not have started a series worse against your division rival in the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah, I don't think it's a hangover. I just think they just got overmatched, but yesterday by a good veteran pitcher, and today by a guy who they hadn't seen before. They were talking on the broadcast about not having their traject machine with them so they could simulate his splitter, but that doesn't sound right. It's just a horrendous start. Everything that could go wrong for them has. They're still waiting for their big guys to crank it up in big spots. They had chances earlier on in the game today. Once they got Yusevich out, it's just not there right now. And what is concerning on top of the way the Yankees are playing is the way the Blue Jays are playing. One of the things we talked about last night, and people talked about it going into the series, into the postseason itself, was just their lack of success in the playoffs in recent years. And also people said, hey, you know what, maybe that 6-day layoff after the regular season, there's always that debate. Are you better off playing through the wild card and staying sharp instead of having that 6 days off to get rusty? I think a lot of teams now will choose the rust over the wild card because they have clicked on all cylinders since the start of this series. They were talking on the broadcast as well about how Guerrero did not finish the regular season very well. So he fixed himself and whatever he had to do. He's been a monster, obviously. We thought about Dalton Varsho, that he was a dangerous bat going into the series. I don't think anyone saw this coming. Yesterday it was Kirk. So they've just got a very deep line. I mean, look, they've scored double-digit runs 2 games in a row, so you can go to a lot of different guys in the lineup. But, I can't even pinpoint the main concerns because there are just so many everywhere.
I think the biggest concern right now is that your starting pitching has completely let you down in 2 games here. I mean, the fact that Luis Gil has not been strong, he had to get pulled out, yanked quick. And then the fact that Max Fried gets absolutely lit up today and just doesn't get the job done as your ace you would hope for in a must-win situation in game 2. And then the fact of the matter is, like you highlighted again, they can't hit a splitter. I don't know why that's not working right now, or that's something that they just they haven't faced really good opponents throwing that splitter like that. Maybe that's in the history, but right now the blueprint's there for the Blue Jays, and they've taken advantage of every single moment here. Give credit to Savage. I mean, the fact that the rookie went in there and a must win, the Yankees were facing the backs against the wall. It's a must win situation for them. He was lights out, and the Yankees just couldn't touch anything on him. Does the lineup need to change, Dan? Like, is that a fix here going into game 3? I know it's all hands on deck, but it feels like,
I mean, I don't know what you do. The problem is what we've talked about. They need Stanton and Judge to hit home runs, and they're not doing it. Big hit, whatever, 2-run single there for Stanton, but too late. They just need the guys that they have. Like, lineup changes. You're going to put in Goldschmidt for Rice. Okay. Obviously they don't have a lot of confidence in Goldschmidt. Otherwise he would have played today. Rosario and Caballero on the bench. There's not a lot of juice down there. So, that's the kind of thing you do when you need a little tweak or something. They don't need tweaks right now. They need the guys that have the team on their back to perform. Now, the next guy up, you said it, is Carlos Rodon. He signed a big contract. He's performed better over the last couple of years. He's, pitched okay in the last round against Boston, gave them what they needed, certainly better than these 2 games, but not dominant. He pitched twice against the Blue Jays this year. He was okay, 5 innings each time, which, 5 innings, 2 runs. If they get that on Tuesday, obviously they take that over what they've just gotten. And then you do have a fairly, you'll have a very well-rested bullpen that if you're in good shape, you can turn it over to them. But before you get to that, you just have to get a decent start out of Carlos Rodon, obviously, hopefully better. Shane Bieber has had some success against the Yankees, has pitched in the postseason. I don't think he's going to be overwhelmed, but he's not dominant. He's not the same pitcher he was a few years ago with Cleveland after the surgery. He's still kind of working his way back from that. So the recipe is there for the Yankees to turn this around on Tuesday. You just maybe something clicked, even though it was in a losing cause and an embarrassing cause. But some of those guys, the big guys, had better swings late against obviously not the top tier of the bullpen. You could talk about, they talked also on the broadcast about getting more pitchers in, that the Yankees forced the Blue Jays to go deeper into their bullpen. I don't really think that matters because, they've got tomorrow off and they couldn't be more well-rested. Maybe they get a couple extra looks at them if they're in a bigger spot later in the series. But, just a nightmare for the Yankees offensively. Defensively, Judge makes a a mistake in right field there. He, you know, you hate to nitpick on everything that he does, but he's Aaron Judge. He's the best player in the world, and he has not looked like it at all in the postseason for the last 7 years, and that's the case again this year. He no really big momentous hits from him. So,
I mean, that's the difference ultimately in this series right now, Dan, is that Vlad Guerrero, their star, has the bases loaded today, hits a grand slam, hits another home run yesterday. Judge has the bases loaded yesterday, strikes out swinging on an ugly pitch.
Mm-hmm.
And that's ultimately been the difference in this series, is that their stars are performing, or their star, and the guy you're counting on in this series, like you said, just isn't coming up with the big hit or the big home run right now.
Yeah, I mean, Guerrero's grand slam came against Will Warren, who just served it up there. But credit to him, he's done. He's been exactly what they thought he was when they signed him to that extension. The Blue Jays looked like a mess at different points this year. It looked like Guerrero was going to be out the door after this season and signing. I remember him being in Citi Field and the Met fans chanting for him. Now he's a Blue Jay for life, and that investment is already paying off. So we'll see. We'll see what happens when the Blue Jays have to come to the Bronx. They had everything going in Toronto. That crowd was loud, intense, and credit to the Blue Jays for playing as well as they did, that the crowd even got louder. Savage throwing a no-hitter into the 6th inning, incredible. And obviously set them up great. Schneider took him out. Maybe if he had to do it over again, maybe he doesn't yank him quite as quickly. Boone with Schlittler, let him go 8 innings, let him throw 100 and something pitches the other day. Schneider takes him out after 70 something. So he's not as experienced.
He's no hitting the Yankees. It's 5 1/3 innings, and he was no hitting them. It's just like,
I think he got a little too cute there, because the guys in that bullpen until Barlin came in, just did not get the job done. So made you at least keep watching the game until the end. So I'll give the Yankees that. But it seems like the Blue Jays uncovered another pitching gem for themselves. They've got a veteran going on the mound on Tuesday, and now the Yankees have to win 3 games in a row, including one in Toronto if they get back there. The fact that they cannot win in Toronto was a topic that we talked about yesterday. Everyone talked about it before the series. Now it's a bigger issue than it already was, because now it's 8-1 or 9-1 or whatever that the Blue Jays are against the Yankees at the Rogers Center, and that place will be electric if there is a Game 5. So you come back tomorrow, you take a breath, you hope Brodon gets you 6 shutout innings or something, and some of these guys at the top of the lineup get going. Grisham is a mess. Judge hasn't gotten going. Bellinger has that home run today. I wasn't at the game watching on TV like you guys. He looks like he's limping. So I don't know, if that will impact him if they do have a playoff run here. He obviously hit the home run, but his athleticism is a big part of Bellinger's game. If that's impacted, that's going to hurt them.
Yep.
You go into Game 3 here. You just hope for the best, that you win one game, and then Game 4, it sounds like would be a bullpen game for Toronto, and the Yankees would have Schlittler. You take your chances with that,
right?
And then,
you
who
would
knows?
think, like Dan, you're lining it up like saying, and I get it. You're trying to take some of the positives. Like, look, if they go
there are no positives.
There are no positives, right? So like you're trying to say, like, if there is some kind of silver lining, if the Yankees want to line it up, Game 3, Carlos Rodon, you would think you have the pitching advantage, even though Shane Bieber is a well-known veteran pitcher, and I'm sure he can handle the big moment. But at the bottom line, if they win Game 3, the Yanks, you do technically have the advantage, you would say, with the bullpen game that Toronto would throw in Game 4, and you would have Cam Schlittler going out there. Let's say they even the series up 2-2. You still got to go back to Toronto, like you just said. You got to go there in the House of Horrors where they're absolutely dominating you. And I would assume Max Fried is throwing Game 5 if and when they get to Game 5, and he would have to pitch a hell of a lot better than what he did today.
Yeah, and you have to hope that he does, and that's why you paid him that money. You paid him that money to have him pitch much better than he did today. But you have no choice but but to map it out like we just did. Otherwise, don't even watch the game on Tuesday and forget about it, because I think I saw a stat. I think it's the in this format of the ALDS, if the home team wins the first two games in a 2-2-1 matchup,
Format.
They won 31 out of 34 times. So that's
so you're saying there's hope, Dan?
There's a chance.
There's a chance, right?
Yeah.
There's a Jim Carrey. So you
That's
telling me
right.
there's a chance?
Yep.
So look, if the Yankees get swept and it doesn't go well Tuesday night, I don't want to be the bleak person, but I have to ask this question. Does that sour this season and make it a disappointment in terms of this was your division rival who you tied in the AL East in Toronto, right? Like you barely lost the division to them. You did technically blow the division lead this year because they had a better stretch down the stretch than you did. Is this an ultimate disappointing season for the Yanks if they end up getting swept by the Toronto Blue Jays in the ALDS?
I would say so. Yeah. I don't think there's any debate about that.
Okay.
Credit. I mean, it's not a disaster. They won 94 games. They made the playoffs. A disaster has happened across town where they didn't make the playoffs and they won 83 games or 82, whatever it was. That's a disaster. This would be certainly a disappointment coming off a World Series appearance last year. There was an argument to be made that they were more well-rounded this year without Soto, but adding Bellinger and some other people. And then to lose to the Blue Jays, that certainly getting swept, but losing to the Blue Jays at all, I think that would be a disappointing end to the season. Certainly end of the season, but yeah, it would cast a pall over the whole year because this team was not put together to lose in the ALDS.
No,
right? It always talks about the postseason being a crapshoot. It seems as the years go on and more teams get added, that is somewhat the case. But you really don't want to lose to the Blue Jays here. Kind of an inexperienced postseason team. You had it lined up. Game one is not lined up well, but game two, the rest of the series is all yours for the taking. And then, look, these two games, it matters how it doesn't matter in the scorebook how you lose, but people are going to remember these two games, how ugly they were. And it's going to fuel the fire that people already have about this team not playing well when it matters most. Give them credit, they beat the Red Sox, but outside of Garrett Crochet, they were a beaten up team. You could make the same argument for the Blue Jays. This is not a world beater. Now, maybe they go on a crazy run here in the postseason and don't lose a game, and they score 12 runs every game. I don't see that happening. But yeah, this would be a disappointing season. I think if the Yankees lose to the Blue Jays in the LDS, that's not what they had in mind. They would tell you, Aaron Judge every year says every time we don't win a World Series, it's a disappointment. But I think most people would expect the Yankees to beat the Blue Jays here and then take their chances in the next round and see what happens. But right now, they look lost, and that's it's one thing you lose 3-2 a couple of games. Yesterday 2-1 in the sixth inning, that kind of game, you bounce back from that. I think these two games are harder to bounce back from, especially when you see your ace get pounded like that.
Oh my God, the ace gets pounded, and then in your superstar slugger, the best hitter in baseball all regular season, strikes out on, again, I can't get that image out of my head, Dan. The ball wasn't even close to being in the strike zone, and just if he had put the ball in play, they get a run in there. Like, just put the ball in play and make it happen. The worst thing he could have done was doing exactly what he did. And again, I love Aaron Judge, right? Like, he's a superstar that we rarely ever see in a sport, how big and powerful he is and how amazing he is to watch at the plate. But this postseason narrative is not going away. And I'm telling you right now, Dan, Yankees fans are ready to crush him, and they already are crushing him. And if they get swept by the Blue Jays, this is going to be another chapter in the Boone Judge era where we're just crushing these guys that they can never get it done when they needed to.
And also, Judge is not getting any younger. So they have this window here with Aaron Judge as the best hitter on the planet that we all know. He needs to be better. They need to be better. They are playing without Garrett Cole. We forget about that sometimes. This team was built to have Cole and Fried at the top. But they got there this far without them, without Cole. I just can't believe Judge has not turned it around in the postseason. He's too good a player. He's mentally tough. He wouldn't be able to succeed in New York for as long as he has if he wasn't. So I don't know how to explain it. But if they're going to do anything, it has to be with him. It doesn't matter how well, I know Volpe didn't have a good game tonight. Doesn't matter what he does. Doesn't matter what Bellinger does. They need Aaron Judge to at least be some form of Aaron Judge. And he hasn't been. And, until that changes, I don't think anything changes for the Yankees. But yeah, I'd be worried. I'd be worried about him. I'd be worried about Max Fried. I'd be worried about who knows what you have in the bullpen there. But, David Bednar is still inexperienced in the postseason. I'd be worried about the Blue Jays. They just look unstoppable right now. And it's 2 games, and the Yankees can certainly beat them 3 games in a row. But not based on what we just saw the last 2 days.
I'm going to end it with this, Dan. Ultimately, do you see the Yankees making a comeback here in this series?
Yeah.
You do?
I don't, not winning it necessarily, but they're going to make a series out of it, I think.
So at least 4 or 5?
I would say at least 4. I had Yankees in 5. That doesn't look great right now. But they've been,
they're just toying with us, Dan. They're just toying with us. So, like, you know what?
Maybe they're trying to build up. They're trying to build up the drama. I mean, this is, they had a clear path to the World Series last year. They took advantage of it. They don't like that narrative. But the Guardians and the Royals are not what these Blue Jays are. They didn't have this type of lineup.
They got a much better lineup than the Red Sox did too.
Yeah, especially this version of it. Yeah, they're just top to bottom. Miles Straw making that. Look, they were going to lose the game anyway. But when Bellinger hits the ball down the left field line and they're making that little comeback, all of a sudden maybe that's 2 runs, and he makes a sliding catch and left. They're just a good team, and they seem to fit together well. And yesterday it was Kirk coming through, besides just Guerrero, and today it's Varsho coming through, and that's what scares you, is that they're just clicking and they have this vibrant attitude that. And they're clearly not scared of the Yankees or any of that. Now, I can't imagine that they'll be scared of the Bronx on Tuesday. But that's kind of what the Yankees have to hope for, is that they get home. They played great at home. They stink against the Blue Jays on the road. They handled them pretty well in the Bronx. So you take all of that. You hope it comes out in your favor on Tuesday, bullpen game on Wednesday, and you see what happens. Crazier things have happened. Certainly, if they lost the first 2 in Toronto, no matter what, I would have been surprised. But to lose them like this, I didn't see that coming at all, and that definitely makes a comeback a little bit less likely, because it's not like they lost 2 hard-fought games and just flip of a coin. They just got smacked around, and they've we've wondered about their future this time, this year a few times. And they answered it, and they wound up winning 94 games and tying Toronto at the top of the division. So I'm not going to write them off until they're done. But this is not the script that they had intended for this series at all.
I'd almost wish that they were losing heartbreakers at this point and not getting blown out like they have the first 2 games. I think
if they had, you'd wish they lost in blowouts.
Really?
That's just the way it goes, right?
Yeah, I don't know. This is tough. You know what? The silver linings are you have Carlos Rodon that you're going to rely on in Game 3. If you want to look at that as a silver lining, I think some Yankees fans are very trepid or however you want to describe it. They don't have great feelings about it. We'll see how he performs in Game 3. But then you do have technically the pitching advantage in Games 4 and 5, technically, you would think. So
yeah, I don't expect Yankee fans to have any silver linings right now. They've just had 2 horrendous days. And if they were a football fan, those days were probably even worse. So they're entitled to be, and you're entitled to be, disappointed, angry, frustrated, and not happy at all about what happened the last 2 days. But all it takes is one game to kind of change the momentum, and it's not like they're going up against the best Dave Steve in his prime. Or the Dodgers or anything like that. So it's possible, but you're entitled to be just licking your wounds right now and not knowing what just happened for the last 2 days.
Dan Martin, we appreciate you for hopping on and giving us your analysis for these last 2 games. We'll see how it goes the rest of the series, and I'm sure I'll be looking forward to your coverage throughout the rest of it, man. Thank you as
Sounds good.
always.